Hi, we're back here and we have a very special guest today with us, Kyra Peralte.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kyra Peralte. She's the founder of the Traveling Diary, a physical journal that travels across the world from woman to woman. Each person shares slices of their lives, forming the chapters of a never-ending, ever-growing experience of shared humanity, wrapped into the pages of an ordinary-looking notebook.
We are very excited to speak with Kyra.
The rules of the environment don't matter.
If it touches one person's life, it's already worth it.
I try to follow what feels good because I don't want to wake up managing something that I hate. It takes courage to say that when everyone is saying something different.
Hi, Kyra. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you guys for this.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time and for wanting to come and talk with us. I know that you are specialized in global community creation.
Before I got into what I'm doing now, I was a part of the real estate tech startup space where I created a platform in that space for new landlords. I've also launched a couple of mobile games. I like trying out new things, and that's how I ended up where I am today with the Traveling Diary.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yes. And as the founder of the Traveling Diary, you send out physical notebooks to women across 30 different countries to share stories, diary entries.
Yeah.
Will you tell us how you got into that? What sparked the idea for the Traveling Diary?
I got into it because during the time that it started, I was at home just really trying to adjust to the way the world was changing. And community is important to me. And I really wanted to understand what people were going through that were not just in my community, but outside of my community. I was just very curious. When you're someone that enjoys meeting new people, learning about new people, and learning about other cultures, you tend to step outside of your own circle to see what's going on and to experiment and discover things. And it was just that at that time, we were so isolated that I just ran out of ideas on how to reach people in ways that felt authentic. I didn't trust that setting up an interview would be authentic. I didn't trust that going online and watch someone's profile would be authentic. What I was looking for was something that made me feel human and that would give us an experience that really felt like, wow, I see you, you see me, we're here in this space together. And that is how the Traveling Diary was birthed. I had this idea to write my thoughts in a notebook and mail it to a stranger and ask that stranger if they would read it and write their own and pass it to another person. I thought it would just only be a group of 5 people. I would be happy with just 5 strangers writing, back and forth in this shared notebook. But it grew to become more than that, to my surprise. I didn't expect people would want to receive something from strangers, especially during that time. But I was wrong. They were ready. They were just as excited about it and looking for human and authentic connection just as much as I was.
Such a simple concept, but it's so touching and it's like a tree that reaches the branches out and then, you can connect to the tree and it's just becomes something massive.
Yeah. Hi. Welcome to Aren't You Crazy, the podcast that flips the script on the struggling artist paradigm.
We are your hosts, Tessie
and Erin Elizabeth Reed. I love too that it's in our digital age, it's such an analog way of connecting. It feels very organic to me, the fact that your hand is touching the page that someone else will receive and touch and pass on. I have so many questions just from your little introduction of how it got started. My first question is, how did you find a stranger to receive? Did you just pick a random address out of a phone book, or how did that come across?
It's crazy because when the idea came to me, it came to me like, late at night. One of my rituals during that time was at the end of the day, my partner and I would just stay up all night and just talking about the day because there was nothing else to do but look outside the window and wait for that groundhog that just goes through everybody's yard to come through and see if you captured it on camera and just talking about like the day, right? And how we managed it and how we're feeling and what movie we're going to watch. And oh, by the way, I am so curious about what's really going on with women because people are still showing up with red lipstick on at a time like this. And I just don't understand. How are they finding their red lipstick at a time like this? What's really going on in their lives? Some of them have children. Some of them, have businesses they're running and I don't understand how they're showing up like this. How do I find out? And that's when I was just trying to figure out how I would find out. And then I went to sleep and woke up the next day and was like, wow, I need to find a stranger. I thought that was a conversation that would just like, we laughed about like, oh, this traveling diary could go around and capture, stories from people and help bring people together. And we laughed about it and just, and watched a movie. And then I woke up the next day and it was like, I need to find a stranger. This is crazy. This like this bug just bit me. It's like, how can I find a stranger? We're in isolation. I go to the store every time I open up the door, I'm wearing a mask. During that time, the different communities that I was plugged into, I got invited to a Zoom call where people were doing just that. And it was a bunch of strangers. And the first thing that I thought of when I accepted, I was like, oh, these are strangers. Maybe I'll find a stranger here, right? So I go to the Zoom call and I'm on it and it's like a 2-hour call, very long. Maybe it may have been longer than that because people had to go around the room introducing themselves, what they were doing and how they needed help. And I think that anybody that is like creative or that makes art or just doesn't has experienced these moments that you could probably count on your hands because they seem rare. I don't know. They're rare for me where you just show up to a space and you're so free because you're so comfortable with who you are and where you are and everything is real and you're acutely aware of life and time and our fleeting essence, that the rules of the environment don't matter. So when it got to me and they were like waiting for me to say, my name is Kyra Peralte, I'm founder, blah, 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 I just told them, this is my name and I have this notebook. And they looked at me like I just came back from Neptune. Like, they were like, get this lady off this call. How did she get invited? And I didn't even care. I didn't care. You know how sometimes you just don't care and you look back and you say, I wish I cared a little bit. Not even a little bit. And the host was so gracious and she allowed the introductions to continue in a very gracious manner. And someone messaged me privately that she'd like to get it. And she was the stranger and she was in North Carolina. And that's how it started. Mm-hmm. And now, they from that one book in North Carolina, it just went all over the world and continues to go all over the world. And then I started to understand more about how this works, with the mail and.
You're a mailing expert now.
Yeah, I'm a mailing expert now, so it's just something that just blossomed, from this desire to connect in an authentic and human way. And it's also how I met Tessie. Mm-hmm. Her work was so beautiful. Oh my God. It was just at the very beginning. Like Tessie is an OG. She's hiding over there. Like she's just like hosting this talk, but she's like really an OG. She knew that I had 7 or 10 people at that time. And she was like, I want to get it. Yeah. So it's, it resonated. It resonated with people to connect in ways that make us feel alive. I feel so alive. Last night I was sitting down reading a book that just got back from South Africa and just turning the pages and just seeing how this woman just took the time to share about her life and an important experience that she just had and some of her hopes and some of her dreams. And I was like, wow, it feels so human.
precious and private in a way where what is shared with other people is in the safety of the community. It's not like it's not going to go in online or in a random, place where everybody can hear and read your most vulnerable things. So I feel like in the traveling diaries that I've exchanged in, there's a lot of, facets of humanity and like vulnerability. And I love that it's still a thing, that it's an underground, thing,
Yeah.
that it's not like advertised or it's like, join the traveling diary, you'll get 99% off. It's like, no,
When I got to around 100 people, I had announced it to the community. I was like, hey guys, guess what? We're 100 people. I was so excited, and I had folks, a couple of folks, email me and say, oh, well, I'm going to have to unsubscribe now because I really like the small intimacy of this community. And I really don't want to stick around and let it like explode and, and lose its authenticity. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting,
It's really interesting to me because sometimes we believe that creativity needs to be seen, needs to be tossed out there. Everybody needs to see it. It needs to be successful. It needs to be mainstream for it to count. And if it touches one person's life, it's already worth it. But we forget that in the realm of the professional interpretation of arts, which I always, find myself tilting in the balance of like, oh, I do want to success, but I don't want to lose my identity, but oh, save me. So, it's strange.
If I didn't have a certain amount of likes or views on anything that is shared about the community online, it's considered to, not be valid. I try to follow what feels good because I don't want to wake up managing something that I hate. I don't want to wake up doing something that I absolutely hate, but I got to do it in order to continue it, in order to continue to uphold a perception of success. There's obviously the validators on the outside waiting to say, okay, let me see what you got. If you're real or not, you got 1 million followers, you got this many views, you got this much again. But sometimes I feel like there are parts of the journey for those of us that want to invest time in expanding our own self-awareness, I feel like there are times in the journey where we're up against ourselves, trying to prove ourselves to ourselves, like our higher self or our inner self saying to us, hey, you're okay, It
resonates so much with things that I've experienced too in my own life, like just how to step away from the noise of external validation, as you say, and do what continues to feel good and for no longer than it does. Something that you do start that brings you joy, there may come a time when it no longer does. And having the courage to like tie that work up with a bow and release it also takes courage.
It does. And I think it takes just as much courage to say, listen, this is how I really feel about this thing. And this is the choice I want to make at this time about it. It takes courage to say that when everyone is saying something different.
Yeah. Kyra, you recently had a TED Talk. How did that feel?
Yeah.
How was that experience for you? We were talking about the traveling diary too, right? And connection and fostering community and belonging through community.
Yeah. I had it on my bucket list to do a TED Talk one of these days before I die, because I feel like I have so many stories to tell. How do you do this? How do you get a TED Talk? It's not that simple. You really have to figure out how you're going to articulate your idea and how you're going to share it, and has to go before a panel and get chosen and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As you're writing your talk, you have to be prepared to change it like 20 times. So your coach knows the way you need to be able to present your message. And then after you write your talk, it has to get approved again by the judges. So this is why you change it like 20 times, because after you submit that final version of your talk, you're not going to have much wiggle room to make a whole lot of changes. And then it's the memorization process, right? So it's like, When was the last? Well, I mean, I can't ask you guys that question because you memorize stuff all the time. But normal people, they don't have to memorize stuff all the time. Now you're working with 5 pages, 6 pages of text. Mm-hmm. And you guys could probably do that in 15 minutes. But the average person is like, oh my gosh, you want me to, I can't even remember what I ate for breakfast. You want me to remember all of this text. And so that takes time. And then after you have it memorized, then you have to go through the process of acting like you're not reciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one of the things I was concerned about is my voice, because you know, it tends to make people feel relaxed. And you don't
do meditations.
you don't want to get up and give a talk where everyone is just going to sleep in the audience. So it was a good process. I felt like clay being molded. I allowed it. I allowed myself to be molded. I allowed them to say, you got to change this here. You got to do this here. You're going to have to do that. You know, I allowed it because I wanted to come out on the other side a different person.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm really, really happy that you got that experience, because I had the opportunity to watch it, and you feel so powerful, but yet so grounded. And I never saw that you hesitated with a line. Nothing. Like you had your shit together, I would say here. But it was really connecting, and like it felt inspiring. I was like, wow, I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, my husband and my kids, everyone around me can say that talk because I had to recite it so many times.
Kyra, tell us, how can more people get involved? How can they reach out or connect to the community?
There's a few ways, right? So one way is you can go to thetravelingdiarytour.com and you can sign up to be part of the newsletter if you just want to take a look and see what's going on with the community and follow it. And come to events, learn about when they're coming up, and sign up and get tickets to those. Find us on Patreon. I share behind the scenes stuff that's going on with the Traveling Diary community that no one else gets. And I love that because on Patreon, I really want to give the folks there something that is special and unique and exclusive. So that's another way. If you're interested in something like community fiction, which is another type of content that the Traveling Diary community has started to create, where someone starts off a story and then other folks just continue it on, and then we have it illustrated at the end. If that's something you'd be interested in doing, where you become part of like a book club where you're the author and you're creating this novel with folks you never met before, if that's exciting to you, then you sign up and you join that. So if you really want to get into the know about the Traveling Diary, the best place to do it is to go to the website, sign up for the newsletter, or go to Patreon. Those are the places where you're going to really find out what's going on and be updated.
I've already signed up for the community fiction diary. I think I've got my entry. It just landed in my inbox yesterday. So I'm really looking forward to reading what's come before and being able to contribute.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much for being here, for your time, and for everything you're doing. Like, it's so inspiring to me every time. So
yes, your work is so inspiring. And I just want to highlight something that stuck out to me was your willingness to not just aim to transform others, but to allow yourself to be transformed by the experience yourself. I think that's such an incredible role modeling aspect that you put out there, and I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm honored to have spent this time with you and to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be in touch about the fictional diaries and the process. More events. Thank you so much. I send you a lot of love, a big kiss, and a hug.
Hey, from Archie Crazy.
Hey, I'm sure you love this episode. Before you go, here are 3 ways you can help us keep things crazy.
Just leave us a rating or share this episode so more people can access this content. Easy peasy, right?
Feeling ultra crazy?
Donate to the show by clicking the link provided in the podcast description or in our Instagram's bio.
I'm sure you will.
Stay crazy out there, y'all.
Stay crazy!